prepared for the CRNA interview process, then keep watching. My name is Christine and welcome to a new video. If this is your first time here and you want to become a CRNA or grow your CRNA career, start now by subscribing and hitting the bell so you don't miss a thing. So you have been accepted to having your interview and you might be stressed, you might be nervous, you might be thinking, what do I do? What are they going to ask me? Am I going to say the right thing? Am I going to say the wrong thing? The most important thing about the interview process is you being yourself, being authentic, just being real. So in this video, we're going to go through step by step of how to prepare yourself for your interview for CRNA school. So one of the first things I'd recommend is saying thank you to the person who accepted you for the interview. Maybe send an email or write a letter. That's also a nice touch. When you're at the interview, make sure that when you are with other interviewees, that you're being nice, you're socializing, you're being very nice and respectful and professional. As soon as you walk into the school and you're in the surroundings of CRNA professionals, your professors, students, you want to start right there and put on your A game. Now always remind yourself, you may be in a situation where you come across a question that you may not know. It's very important just to stay calm. I know you'll be nervous, but try to stay calm and try to answer at your best of abilities. And maybe you just may have to say that, you don't know that answer. A lot of times the interview is to see how you handle a stressful situation, especially the questions they'll be asking you. It'll be content information, stuff that you learned in your CCRN when you took your certification exam, a lot of practical questions, what your clinical experience was, and what type of question maybe related to your intensive care unit and critical care. Then they're going to ask you questions about your ethics, about you as a person, and how you work well. Do you work well in group situations? Do you work well by yourself? And also, they may ask you questions about, what's the reason you're going into, becoming a CRNA. So there'll be a ton of questions in regards to a whole scope of things. It's not going to just be content. It's going to be you as a person and make sure that you're a fit for the program. So some of the clinical questions they may ask you will be related to, for example, your CCRN exam. They're going to ask you a question, blood transfusions, maybe medications, some of the drips, levofed, dobutamine, a whole bunch of slew of maybe ABGs. They may go through clinical condition, pathophysiology. A lot of this content will be related to critical care. Another thing, you may want to make sure you're up to date on the AANA research. So it's really good to know up to date on anesthesia practice, any news or updates. It looks nice when you're kind of aware of topics in anesthesia. Definitely check out the AANA website for further information. And when you're thinking about clinical questions, they're going to see how much of an expert you are in critical care. I hope this information helped you. And if you have any questions, definitely put it in the comments below. I would love to hear about it. The next thing they'll be asking you is personal questions about you as a person. Why did you choose it? Why did you choose to become an advanced practice nurse in anesthesia? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? How are you going to support yourself in school? Do you have a family? Do you have children? How do you handle stress? And how do you deal with stress? What do you do for fun? What are some of your hobbies? What are some of your extracurricular activities that you do? They may ask you who's your role model. They may ask you what's the reason you're interested in anesthesia. They may ask you how you handle conflict situations. They may also ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Some examples of some clinical questions can be complications to blood transfusions, your normal values of your ICP, lab values. They may ask you about, have you shadowed a CRNA and how was that experience and what you gained from that? They may ask you about drugs, about atropine. They may ask you about all your drips like levofed, dobutamine. They may ask you specific mechanism of action, how it affects the cardiac system, and they may ask you the receptors down to the cellular level and what patient population you've used those specific medications on. They may ask you about septic shock, cardiogenic shock, and they may have you compare two different types of medications, and there's a ton more. But these are some basic examples of questions that they may ask you. So just be mindful that when you go for interviews, just not going to be talking to you about your personal life. They're going to ask you critical care questions, like you're taking a board exam, but live with someone. So now we've discussed some examples of how to prepare yourself for your interview. So when you do go for your interview, you may be alone, one-on-one, with another person, with a professor, or you may be in a group situation. Another thing you might be, when I had my interview, it was 3 or 4 professors, and I was by myself. And then each person were asking me all types of questions, all different areas. And it definitely was bouncing from place to place, critical care questions. Then it'd be personal questions, go back to critical care questions. And if I got a question right, then they'll go more in depth about that question. They may test you until you can't go anymore. The most important thing I'd recommend is just try to stay positive, try to stay calm. And you may be inside thinking, oh my God, how am I need to get out of here. But you gotta stay focused. You gotta remind yourself that you may not know all the answers, but it's how you answer those questions and how you deal with the stress. When you become a CRNA, you're gonna be in stressful situations, you're gonna have a lot of critical care thinking skills that being an RN, you've dealt with that. So definitely keep yourself to remind yourself that you can do this. And you know what? If you do well in this interview, and you may not feel you did well, but you probably did do well, that your next step would be getting accepted and going to school. This interview process is kind of a stepping stone for CRNA school, because how you deal with this interview is definitely going to see if you fit for this program. Also, I have a bonus tip. A bonus tip and a bonus interview type of style question, they may ask you about research, because a lot of the programs are transitioning from master's prepared to DMP, PhD programs. So they may ask you questions about research project. So think about something in regards to your dissertation, something related to the school. Maybe the school is doing certain research in certain areas, and you may say, hey, you know what, I'm interested in that area. I could do a research project on this. So definitely start thinking on another level about when you are in school and what your research project is going to be on, because that's also another thing that they may ask you questions about. You want to be prepared. Thank you so much for watching. And if you want to learn more about CRNAs or how to grow your CRNA career, click one of these videos over here, and I'll see you in the next video.